follow-up to Garry's Mod is something that has been in the public's mind since late 2015, when the creator, Gary Newman, and also the founder of Facepunch Studios, mentioned the idea in an interview with Eurogamer. Since then, there's been little mention of the project, and only a few core principles understood. Newman wanted to take advantage of the technologies that Valve had been working on for years, mainly the new game engine, Source 2. Newman wanted to incorporate virtual reality functionality from the very beginning of development, however in what capacity was unexplained. Newman didn't want it to be called Garry's Mod 2 though. What followed were compromises and stopgaps to fill the time before Source 2 became available, both privately and publicly, including a version built off of Epic's Unreal Engine 4. However, in mid-2020, and following the release of Half-Life Alyx, Newman was given access to the Source 2 developer repository, and legitimate work on Garry's Mod successor, dubbed Sandbox, was underway. Accounts of the production process within the first year were discussed on the official Sandbox blog, information of which has been discussed at length on this channel and a few others, such as Craze. Throughout the dev blogs, Gary and Facepunch's staff mentioned the possibility of a third-party developer build being released out to budding Source 2 artists. The possible date, however, seemed to get pushed back quite frequently, until the release occurred with little fanfare. The first early access build to Sandbox running Source 2 has been released to select developers, and I have secured access. I've spent the last week exploring the tools, playing the few features published, and digging through the files. So let's discuss the findings along with what players can expect from Sandbox. This video is sponsored by Frag Pro Shooter, one of the best skill-based mobile shooters of 2020, with over 70 million total players and a million playing Frag every day. Your goal? Destroy the enemy bunkers before your bunkers go down. How do we take down the fort? Players build a deck of characters to deploy throughout the game, and with over 90 unique units to collect, each with their own stats and abilities, meaning one zone deck composition is just as important as your in-game skill, the name of the game here is a hybrid of tactics and twitch action. Of those classes, new ones are introduced constantly, most recently being Zap Girl, being an electrically based infantry fighter, allowing for frontline damage, including her Tower of Lightning that not only deals damage to enemies in a radius of the attack, but slows down everyone, extending the length of the damage. Players have a choice at the time of writing of 3 game modes: Payload, 2v2, and Street Frag. Payload is my favorite for obvious reasons, where your team must escort a cart to a goal, in this case being the center of the map. Players can slow down the enemy's team cart by killing those attempting to push, while also taking down targets to slow down the actual movement of the cart itself. Use the link down below to join Frag Pro Shooter and get a golden chest, 500 coins, and 50 diamonds for free, even if you've already played the game. So without further ado, it's rumored that Newman had a difficult time keeping correspondence with Valve through the production cycle of Half-Life Alyx, and the idea of receiving the necessary resources from Source 2 seemed unlikely at best. The public development of Sandbox on UE4 is evidence enough of the lack of confidence in Source 2 being publicly available. When Newman did eventually receive access, it coincided with some major internal events at Valve Software. The person in charge of third-party licensees for engine access was replaced. It's unknown if this individual was fired or quit, but the person taking their place is reportedly more active at this task. The previous person would reportedly answer emails maybe once a month, and if a team sent this person a series of questions, only a single answer to a single question would be sent back. It seems the person who took over the job realized Gary was requesting access and delivered. The dates of the previous licensee departure lines up with Gary receiving Source 2, and reports from those with engine access corroborate the story. And by the way, if you have a license and you have not heard anything back from Valve for about a year, check your contact email, it may have changed. Now, for those lacking interest in the core loop of Garry's Mod, the significance of these events may seem lost on you. Sandbox does represent more than a new game creation platform. It also brings nearly the full Source 2 toolset to the public. With the reveal of Half-Life Alyx, Valve promised mapping tools to be released alongside the game, and although the team did deliver on their promise, the results felt underwhelming, and the support ended soon after. Until now, only 1/3 of Valve's total tools have been officially given out to the community, and the process of creating, publishing, and sharing user-generated content is unorganized, performs poorly, and is the subject to a large number of bugs. Valve did have a third-party writer publish a blog post outlining some of, in their opinion, the best content on the workshop once, but the mechanical changes to bring the Half-Life Alyx workshop up to the standards seen in the decade-old Portal 2 workshop has not been announced or even hinted at in update leaks. This is where Sandbox can deliver. In mid-April, Facepunch started distributing Steam keys to an in-development build of Sandbox to prominent Source 2 community developers, Gmod developers, and a few influencers. Many in the community started seeing screenshots and videos of what appeared to be a new generation of Gmod and started requesting keys en masse. I have access to the build, which updates multiple times an hour. I also have access to the developer-only Discord and can ask Gary questions when need be. So let me make this clear. Sandbox is not a game yet. Sandbox is a set of tools and has months, if not years left before it could be at the level of something like Garry's Mod 14. I was given access to the game by Craze, a YouTuber creator focused on Sandbox content. Gary had been giving many creators 5 keys, and some of these creators offered to send this channel a key. Thank you to everyone offering to help out. The draw of Sandbox at writing is the creation tools it delivers, and for creators, it delivers far more than expected. The version of Source 2 seen here is representative of the tools used to create Half-Life Alyx in its entirety, with the engineers at Facepunch cleaning them up and bringing new quality of life features to streamline the entire creation process. 2 executables are seen in the root directory of Sandbox. One starts the game, and the other launches a robust version of the Source 2 toolset. To compare, this is the set of tools given out in the Half-Life Alyx workshop build, and this is what's available with Sandbox. However, according to Gary Newman, quote, although these tools are all available right now, they might go away since some of them are too low level to be useful to end users in our system, end quote. Requesting further comment from Newman resulted in the S&D editor being singled out as an example for removal. However, things like the S&D editors, FacePoser 2, vMix tools, and many more are some of the standouts, and although some of these tools include a text editor and a specialized Sandbox developer console, this toolset, mixed with direct code integration in C# allows for almost full game development in Source 2 outside of Valve for the first time. Further updates to the toolset are planned, including all of Valve's VR code being exposed to developers in future builds, allowing for VR development on this platform to move forward. According to Newman in the Sandbox developer Discord, quote, I think in all likelihood we're going to have game modes that specialize in VR. There's no way we can expect stuff to just work for VR, so what I envision is people tag their game modes on how they can be played. Mouse and keyboard, gamepad, VR, it all should be totally possible to have game modes that have people using mouse and keyboards and people using VR in the same time. I think that's where it can get interesting, end quote. The game, however, is very bare bones and lacking in most content. Only a handful of game modes are live, however, those are in very bare states, with only a few test maps to allow for basic gameplay. As previously stated, this is not a game ready to be played. This is a plethora of tools to allow creators to publish work, at least within the confines of Facepunch and Sandbox's own ecosystems. Gary has cleaned almost everything before giving it out, specifically informing me that he needed to, quote, de-citadel the files before I got a key. That said, references to HLX were initially left in the build. HLX, for those unaware, appears to be a new VR project based on the foundation built by Half-Life Alyx. The introduction of the codename lines up with the discovery that Eric Wolpaw and Jay Pinkerton, the co-writers of Half-Life Alyx, pitched a new game concept to Valve only a few months ago.
Zoom times are awful for pitching. Jay and I had to pitch a couple months ago something, and it was a call with a team that we're not always working with, and everybody had their camera off and their mics off, and it's just like you're pitching into this void and you can't read anybody's face or hear it. It was just the worst. We still talk about it. I think Jay and I talked about it yesterday, how bad.
Upon informing Gary Newman of these findings before making anything public, Gary stated, quote, haha, I don't think it's such a big deal. HLX is just Source 2's first person, but thanks for hitting me up, end quote. If HLX is Source 2's first person system, it would make the findings of the CVAR startup files for a separate HLX project confusing, as they are exact copies of Half-Life Alyx's, updated to include a few new console commands and such. HLX is a VR project, and it appears to be building off of the foundation of Half-Life Alyx, at least according to all sources of information available at the time of writing. Wrapping up, Valve is known to be working on many things while at home. Updates to CSGO and Dota 2, at least 2 new games, being Citadel and HLX, along with whatever IceFrog has been up to lately. Daily maintenance on Steam and Steam VR, as well as third-party outreach for much-needed patches for Portal 2, Left 4 Dead 2, and Team Fortress 2. What Valve doesn't appear to be working on is tools. Initially announced at the Game Developers Conference 2015, Valve has promised the full Source 2 SDK to be out to developers free of charge. 6 years later, and it's taking a third party to get the bulk of these tools out to the public, and even then, it's not going to be enough to rival popular engines of the day. What we are seeing is the result of over a decade of research and development at Valve Software. FacePoser 2, for example, is so old that parts of it predate Source Filmmaker entirely. Valve took their time getting anything out and didn't follow through on their promises. Now, Facepunch needs support from creators in order to pick up the pieces and release something of value using all of this hard work. This is Tyler McVicker, signing off. Adios.